Hello my dear students and all the viewers who are watching this video. Yesterday I had talked about derivative. I had explained all the various types that we need to understand on derivative. So today we are going to solve some problems on derivative. So I have taken one exercise 7 subdivision 2. This is from Suranjan and Sabita Saha. So I'll be teaching you how to explain how to solve these questions. So let us start. So look at question number 1. Question number 1, subdivision 1. Differentiate with respect to x. So the question is x to the power 4 plus 4 to the power x plus log x minus 1. So this is the question. So you need to start by writing let y equal to the question. Now doesn't this look like an explicit function? In the previous episode I had explained what is an explicit function. Explicit function means a function in which y is expressed in terms of x. Now let me differentiate this. What you need to do is next you write differentiating with respect to x. So when you differentiate y with respect to x, you are going to get dy by dx equal to x to the power 4. Formula number 1, I'll just write on the formulas to recap what I had taught yesterday. First formula, x to the power n. Whenever the power is a constant, the power comes in front and you subtract 1 from the power. So differentiation of x to the power 4 is going to be 4, x to the power 4 minus 1 is 3. So this is the formula for the first part. Now look at the second part. It's 4 to the power x. So the second formula that we are going to use is differentiation of a to the power x. It is a to the power x into log a. See the difference between formula 1 and formula number 2. Formula number 1, the base is x, and in formula number 2, the base is a constant. So I'm going to use second formula for the second term. 4 to the power x. 4 is a constant. So what is going to be the differentiated value of 4 to the power x? Is going to be 4 to the power x log 4 plus the third formula which I'm going to use out here is d by dx of log x. What's the differential of log x? 1 by x. And finally differentiation of a constant. Differentiation of a constant is 0. So 1 is a constant is 0. So therefore what is the differentiated value? The differentiated value is 4x cube plus 4 to the power x log 4 plus 1 by x. So this is your final answer. So as you can see, the first exercise, that is exercise 7 subdivision 2, is basically we have to learn how to apply the formula and the properties. Now let us do the second, or rather the second question. The second question is 2x to the power 3 by 2 minus 3 dot e to the power 1 by 3x plus 2 to the power x plus 4. So as I've already told you, we start by writing let y equal to the question. Next you write differentiating with respect to x. What is the differentiation of y? It is dy by dx. So dy by dx. Now look at the first term. You see a constant and a function. So the constant comes in front, and what is differentiation of x to the power 3 by 2? The first formula which I've already written out here. What does the first formula say? If the power is a constant, the power comes in front and you subtract 1 from the power. So let us use that formula. So x to the power 3 by 2 is 3 by 2 comes in front, x to the power 3 by 2 minus 1. Minus again 3 into e to the power 1 by 3x. 3 is a constant and it is with a function. The constant comes out. So e to the power mx. Formula number 2 is e to the power mx is m, the constant term m comes in front, e to the power mx plus 2 to the power x, that is formula. Look at the formula, a to the power x. What's the formula for a to the power x? It is 2 to the power x into log 2 plus differentiation of 4. It's a constant, so it's 0. So let me simplify this. 2 and 2 gets cancelled. So 3 dot x to the power, when you find the LCM, you're going to get 1 by 2 minus 3 and 3 gets cancelled. e to the power 1 by 3x plus 2 to the power x log 2. So this is your final answer. With these two questions, what you observed out here is, out here we are learning how to differentiate individual functions when there's a plus or a minus sign. It's simple application of formula. So if you are watching this on YouTube, please pause for a second and take a screenshot of it, so that it will be helpful and you can jot it down in your copy and practice these questions. I'll just give you a few minutes. Okay, now let us move on to the next question. Question number 1, subdivision 4. Question number 1, subdivision 4. It's 4x to the power 5 by 4 plus 3x to the power 1 by 3 minus 2 divided by root x plus 4 divided by root x to the power 5. So what do you do when you have to differentiate such kind of function? So as I told you, you start with let y equal to the function. Now before you differentiate, look at the first formula. The first formula says whenever the base is x and the power is a constant, the constant comes in front. But look at the third term and the fourth term. X is in the denominator, so you have to take it to the numerator and then apply formula number 1. So let us take x to the numerator. So y equal to 4x to the power 5 by 4 as it is, plus 3 dot x to the power 1 by 3 minus 2. You know root x means x to the power 1 by 2. So when x to the power 1 by 2 comes up, it becomes x to the power minus 1 by 2 plus root x to the power 5. So I'm just going to explain root x to the power 5. So it's going to be x to the power 5, root is 1 by 2. So it is x to the power 5 by 2. So when it goes up, it becomes x to the power minus 5 by 2. Now, since all the terms containing x are in the numerator, so let us differentiate. Differentiating with respect to x. What is the differentiation of y? dy by dx. Again, 4 is with a function in terms of x, so 4 is a constant, comes out. What's the differentiation of x to the power n? The constant comes in front, so 5 by 4 x to the power 5 by 4 minus 1. Similarly, 3 is a constant. What's the formula for x to the power 1 by 3? 1 by 3 comes in front and you subtract 1 from the power. Do the same thing for the third term. Minus 1 by 2 is a constant, comes in front. So minus 1 by 2 x to the power minus 1 by 2 minus 1 plus 4 as it is. Again minus 5 by 2 comes in front, x to the power minus 5 by 2 minus 1. So let us simplify. 4 and 4 gets cancelled. 5, the 5x, what is the LCM? 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. So 1 by 4 plus 3 and 3 gets cancelled. X to the power LCM is 3. 1 minus 3 is minus 2 by 3. Minus into minus is plus, 2 and 2 also gets cancelled. X to the power LCM is 2, minus 1 minus 2 is minus 3 by 2, plus into minus is minus 4, 2 2s are 4, 5 2s are 10, x to the power minus 7 by 2. You can simplify this further by making the power of x positive. How do I do that? Take it to the denominator. X to the power 3 by 2 minus 10 x to the power minus 7, sorry, this is going to be plus 7 by 2. So this is how you solve question number 1, subdivision 4. Now let us solve question number 2. Again the same thing. Differentiate each of the following functions with respect to x. So let us do the first question, 2 subdivision 1. So the question is x cube e to the power 3x. So as I told you, you start with let y equal to x, because I've already explained it is an explicit function. Y is dependent and x is independent. But there's a small problem out here. The problem is there is a multiplication sign between the two functions. So whenever there's a multiplication sign, we are going to use product rule. So product rule means you take this to be u and this to be v. So differentiating with respect to x, differentiation of y is dy by dx. What is product rule? U into v. Yesterday only I taught you, keep u constant, differentiate v. Now you keep v constant and then you differentiate u. This is just for you to understand product rule. Now you just simplify and put the value u as it is. What is u? X cube, d by dx of what is v? V is e to the power 3x plus v constant e to the power 3x into differentiation of x cube. Now x cube is a constant, this is e to the power mx. What is the formula for e to the power mx? What is the formula for e to the power mx? It is m dot e to the power mx. I've written it so that it becomes simple for you. So m is a constant, so 3 comes out, so e to the power 3x. Plus out here we are not going to apply the formula because this we are treating as a constant. Dot x cube, again if the base is x and the power is a constant, formula number 1. What is going to happen to n? N is going to come in front and you subtract 1 from the power. So 3 comes in front, 3 dot x to the power 3 minus 1 is 2. So you can simplify further by taking common. So as I can see out here, 3 is common, x square is also common because this is x cube and this is x square. X square is common and even e to the power 3x is common. So when you take this common from here, you are left with x, and from here you are left with 1. So this is called product rule. Let us do one more question. Question number 2, subdivision 4. The remaining questions please try at home. Remaining questions. So question number 2, subdivision 4 is root x dot e to the power 3x. E to the power 3x. So you start by writing let y equal to the function. Out here also you can see there's a multiplication sign. So automatically this becomes u and the second function becomes v. So please don't forget, you have to write this differentiating both sides with respect to x. I hope you have not forgotten the definition of differentiation. Y is changing with respect to x and the change you are going to get by dy by dx. So u into v. Now I'm not going to write down the property because I've already written out here. So I'm just going to say it. I'm going to just say the rule but write down the value of u and v. The rule is u. What is u? Root x. D by dx of v. What is v? E to the power 3x plus v e to the power 3x into d by dx of u. What is u? Root x. Now again I told you this is a constant, so we don't use formula for this. What is e to the power 3x? E to the power mx. M constant comes in front. So 3 is a constant, comes in front. 3 dot e to the power 3x plus e to the power 3x dot root x. Can anyone tell me what's the formula for root x? Yesterday I had given it to you. It's a particular case. Differentiation of root x is 1 by 2 root x. Differentiation of root x is 1 by 2 root x. So let me simplify further. So what is the what is common? E to the power 3x is common. So when you take e to the power 3x common, you are left with 3 root x plus 1 divided by 2 root x. You can leave the answer till here. Is that okay? So this is product rule for you. So you can just pause for a moment and just take the screenshot. Okay, now let us continue with question number 3. Now what is interesting about question number 3 is we have to use product rule, but out here there are 3 terms. There are 3 terms. So what do you do when there are 3 terms? X to the power 5, e to the power 2x and log x. So you start by writing let y equal to. So what you are going to do is you are going to use the same rule out here. It's just that there is one more term that has been added. So differentiating with respect to x. So differentiation of y is dy by dx. So what we are going to do is we are going to see first we are going to differentiate x to the power 5. So when you are going to differentiate x to the power 5, the remaining two functions will remain constant, like e to the power 2x log x is a constant, you just differentiate x to the power 5. Now when you are going to differentiate e to the power 2x, the remaining two functions x to the power 5 into log x remains constant, so d by dx of e to the power 2x. And finally when it's the time to differentiate log x, the remaining two functions x to the power 5 and e to the power 2x will remain constant. That means you need not apply the formula for the two terms. So e to the power 2x log x as it is, because this we are treating as a constant. Can anyone tell me what's the differential of x to the power 5? Come on, we have used this many times. Formula number 1, what will happen to the constant? The constant comes in front. So 5 comes in front and you subtract 1, so it becomes 5x to the power 4. Moving on, x to the power 5 log x constant, no problem. E to the power 2x, which formula is this? E to the power mx. So what's going to happen to 2? 2 comes in front. So 2 e to the power 2x plus, look at the last part, x to the power 5 dot e to the power 2x. And what is the differentiation of log x? Differentiation of log x is 1 by x. So you can take common. So you can see x and x gets cancelled, so this becomes 4. So out here this is x to the power 4, x to the power 5 and x to the power 4. So we can take x to the power 4 common. I can see e to the power 2x also. Yes, that's it. So if I take x to the power 4 and e to the power 2x, what is left? 5 log x is left plus e to the power 2x and x to the power 4. So 2x log x is left. And finally, if I take x to the power 4 and e to the power 2x, 1 is left. So this is your final answer. So let me go through this question one more time. So when there are three terms, you need not worry, you just need to use the same product rule. It's just that one extra term has been added. So how did we differentiate when there are three terms? If you have to differentiate the first term, the second and the third remains constant. If you have to differentiate the second term, the first and the third remains constant, and so on. If you have to differentiate the third term, the first and the second remains constant. So I hope this solution is clear. So what I want you all to do is, once you have understood this, I want you all to try question number 3, subdivision 1 and 3. Subdivision 1 and 3. So moving on to question number 4. Moving on to question number 4, look at question number 4, subdivision 2. X cube divided by log x. So you start by writing let y equal to. Now see, there are two functions, but the problem out here is there's a division sign between them. So in this case, what are we going to use? We are going to use quotient rule, u by v. So those who don't know what is quotient rule, for you all I'm going to write it one more time. Differentiating with respect to x. So differentiation of y is dy by dx. So it's similar to product rule, it's just that you start with the denominator. So v constant, d by dx of u, there's a minus sign in between, u d by dx of v divided by v square. Now you simply have to put in the values. What is v? V is log x. Log x dot d by dx of u. What is u? It is x cube minus u. So x cube as it is, d by dx of v. V is log x. Divide the whole thing by log x whole square. So again, students, please don't get confused with product rule and quotient rule. Actually what we are trying to do is, see, whenever there are two functions, we are not going to differentiate them together. We are just going to differentiate them one at a time. So when you differentiate the first, the second remains constant, and when you differentiate the second, the first remains constant. For product there is a plus sign, and for quotient there is a minus sign. And remember, in quotient rule the first term has to be v. So as I told you log x is a constant. What is the differentiation of x cube? 3 comes in front, 3x square minus x cube as it is. What is the differentiation of log x? It's 1 by x. Divide the whole thing by log x whole square. You can simplify further, x and x cube gets cancelled, so you get x square. So what is common? X square is common. So when you take x square common, you get 3 log x minus 1. Divide the whole thing by log x whole square. So this is how you solve a question where you have to use quotient rule. So as you can see, this particular exercise, derivative of function, product and quotient rule. So we are going to learn how to differentiate functions when there is a plus or a minus sign, when there is a multiplication sign, and when there is division sign. Once again, let me revise. If there's a plus or a minus sign, we differentiate them individually. When there is a multiplication sign, we use product rule, and when there's a division sign, we use quotient rule. So let me solve few questions, question number 5 and question number 6. Okay, question number 5. Question number 5, subdivision 2. The question is 5 minus 4x divided by 5 plus 4x. You start by writing let y equal to, so this is, the numerator is u, the denominator is v. So differentiating with respect to x. Differentiation of y. What is the differentiation of y? dy by dx. Once we get into detail of derivative, you will understand why you are writing dy by dx also. So what is u by v? Please tell me the rule. I'm going to say the rule property and you just going to write down the values. It's v. V is 5 plus 4x d by dx of u. Which one is u? 5 minus 4x minus u. 5 minus 4x into d by dx of v. 5 plus 4x. Divide the whole thing by 5 plus 4x whole square. Now apply the property. 5 plus 4x is a constant as it is. What's the differentiation of 5? A constant. Differentiation of a constant is 0. Minus 4 is a constant, it's with a variable. Now see the difference between 5 and 4x. I'm writing the differentiation of 5 as 0, but 4 I'm writing as 4 into 1. The reason, 5 is just a constant, so differentiation of a constant is 0. But 4, it is with a variable, so it's not a constant. So 4, the constant term, it's with a variable, so 4 comes in front, and differentiation of x is 1. Minus 5 minus 4x as it is. 5 again is a constant, 0, plus 4 dot differentiation of x is 1. Divide the whole thing by 5 plus 4x whole square. Now what you can do after this is you can take common or you can even multiply. So let us multiply. Okay, 5 into 4. 5 4s are 20, 4 4s are 16x, minus 5 4s are 20, minus into minus is plus 4 4s are 16x. Divide the whole thing by 5 plus 4x whole square. So plus 16x and minus 16x gets cancelled. So you are left with minus 40 divided by 5 plus 4x whole square. So this is your final answer for question number 5, subdivision 2. In a similar way, you can try 5 subdivision 1 and 5 subdivision 3. So let us do the last question, that is question number 6. Question number 6. Question number 6, subdivision 1. 6 subdivision 1. The question is differentiate, find the derivative of each of the following with respect to x. So the question is 1 plus root x divided by 1 minus root x. So you start by writing let y equal to the function. So the numerator is u and the denominator is v. So the second step which you are going to write will be differentiating both sides with respect to x. And students, please don't forget to write this step. If you don't write this step, then you are bound to lose marks. So moving on, differentiation of y is dy by dx. So what is quotient rule? U by v. 1 minus root x, that means v. Say the property but write down the value. That way it will stay for a longer time. V d by dx of u minus u d by dx of v, 1 minus root x. Divide the whole thing by v square, 1 minus root x whole square. Now what are you going to do next? 1 minus root x, it's a constant, so as it is. Next, now I'm going to differentiate this part. What is the differentiation of 1? 1 is a constant, there is no variable involved, so directly differentiation of a constant is 0. Plus root x, I have already given the formula, it's a particular case, differentiation of root x is 1 by 2 root x, keep that in mind. So 1 by 2 root x minus 1 plus root x, differentiation of 1 is 0 and root x is 1 by 2 root x. Divide the whole thing by 1 minus root x whole square. Now next what you are going to do is you are going to multiply. 0 plus anything is the number itself, so 1 minus root x into 1 will give you 1 minus root x, and in the denominator you get 2 root x. Minus into minus becomes plus. 1 plus root x, divide the whole thing by 2 root x divided by 1 minus root x whole square. 1 minus root x whole square. Now the last part, find out the LCM. So 2 root x, what do you get in the numerator? 1 minus root x plus, since the denominator is same, 1 plus root x divided by 1 minus root x whole square. So root x and root x gets cancelled. So 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 divided by 2 root x. When you change division into multiplication, you know the fraction gets reciprocaled. So 1 becomes the numerator and 1 minus root x whole square becomes the denominator. So 2 and 2 gets cancelled. So what is your final answer? 1 divided by root x into 1 minus root x whole square. So this is the solution to question number 6, subdivision 1. So you can try question number 6, subdivision 2, and question number 6, subdivision 2 and 3. So once again, let me repeat this. This is a chapter on derivative. If you have not watched my previous video where I have explained, please do watch that before you try this. Then memorize the formulas and then we can start solving the problems. So from the first exercise, these questions which I have done are more than enough. Is that clear? So next I'll be starting with composite function. That's going to be a very important class. Please don't miss that. Thank you so much.
अनलाइन शिक्षा मार्फत आज हामी 12औं श्रेणीका विद्यार्थीहरूको निम्ति पनि कक्षा सुरु गरिरहेका छौं र 12औं श्रेणीका विद्यार्थीहरूको निम्ति जसरी हामीले 10औं श्रेणीका विद्यार्थीहरूको निम्ति विभिन्न पाठहरू पढायौं, सोही क्रममा हामी 12औं श्रेणीका विद्यार्थीहरूलाई नेपालीको पाठ्यक्रम अन्तर्गत कविताबाट हामी सुरु गर्नेछौं र सर्वप्रथम आईएससी नेपाली का निम्ति विद्यार्थीहरूलाई कुन कुन विषय पढ्न जरुरी छ अनि पाठ्यक्रम अन्तर्गत कुन कुन विषयमा कति कति अंक दिइन्छ सर्वप्रथम जानकारी गराइनेछ र विशेष गरेर यो अनलाइन शिक्षा मार्फत घर बसेर नै विद्यार्थीहरूले जुन शिक्षा पाइरहेका छन् अथवा हेरिरहेका छन्, म विद्यार्थीहरूलाई हार्दिक स्वागत अभिवादन जनाउँछु अनि यसलाई गहनतापूर्वक हेरेर मनन गरेर अध्ययन गरेर सुनेर 2021 को जुन आईएससी परीक्षा हुन्छ यसको निम्ति पनि विद्यार्थीहरूलाई घर बसेर नै तयारी गरिदिन म आग्रह पनि गर्दछु, किनभने लकडाउनको समय सीमा अझै बढ्दै गइरहेको छ। स्कुल कहिले खुल्छ त्यसको निश्चितता छैन। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि यो अनिश्चित भइरहेको एउटा स्थितिमा हामी घर बसेरै हामीले अध्ययनलाई जारी राख्नुपर्ने एउटा अवस्था छ। यो कारणले गर्दा विद्यार्थी नानीहरूलाई घर बसेरै शिक्षा हासिल गर्न म आग्रह गर्दछु। आज हामी नेपाली विषय अन्तर्गत आइएससी 2021 को निम्ति तयारी गरिरहेका विद्यार्थीहरूलाई म विशेष जानकारी गराउन लागिरहेको छु। र नेपाली विषयमा विशेष गरेर जसरी आइसिएससीमा 80 अङ्कको मात्र प्रश्न दिइन्थ्यो भने आइएससीमा 100 अङ्कको नै प्रश्न दिएको हुन्छ र 100 अङ्कमा 3 घण्टाको समय दिएको हुन्छ विद्यार्थीहरूलाई र त्यसमा 2टा सेक्सनमा अथवा 2टा खण्डमा विभाजन गरिएको हुन्छ नेपालीको प्रश्न। प्रथम खण्डमा ग्रामर अथवा व्याकरण खण्डबाट दिएको हुन्छ भने दोस्रो खण्डमा साहित्यबाट प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ र पहिलो खण्डबाट क्वेसन 1, 2, 3 यो पहिलो खण्डको जुन प्रश्न छ त्यो प्रश्नबाट सेक्सन ए बाट विद्यार्थीहरूले अनिवार्य रूपमा सबै प्रश्नको उत्तर गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। त्यसमा हुन त निबन्ध लेखनमा पनि अप्सन दिएको हुन्छ, अरूमा पनि शब्द भण्डारमा पनि अप्सन दिएको हुन्छ, छान्न पाइन्छ। तथापि प्रश्न 1, 2, 3 यो सेक्सन ए बाट गर्नुपर्ने सबै गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। तर सेक्सन बी बाट चाहिँ जम्मा 4टा पुस्तक आइसिएससी को निम्ति जम्मा 4टा पुस्तक दिएको हुन्छ। ती मध्येबाट 3टा पुस्तकबाट जम्मा 4वटा प्रश्नको उत्तर मात्र विद्यार्थीहरूले गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। आइसिएससी नेपाली पाठ्यक्रम अन्तर्गत व्याकरण खण्डको निम्ति 50 अङ्क छुट्याइएको हुन्छ र यसमा विद्यार्थीहरूलाई रचना लेखन अथवा निबन्ध लेख्नको निम्ति 400 शब्दभित्रमा निबन्ध लेख्नको निम्ति दिएको हुन्छ र निबन्ध लेख्नको निम्ति कम्तीमा पनि 6वटा विषय दिएको हुन्छ। त्यो विषयहरू मध्येबाट एउटा विषय छानेर विद्यार्थीहरूले निबन्ध लेख्नुपर्ने हुन्छ र निबन्ध लेख्नको निम्ति 20 अङ्क दिएको हुन्छ। 20 अङ्कको निबन्ध विद्यार्थीहरूलाई लेख्नको निम्ति दिइन्छ र त्यसमा पनि प्रशस्त विद्यार्थीहरूले छान्ने मौका पाउनेछन्। त्यसमा 6वटा विषय 7वटा विषय दिएको हुन्छ। त्यो विषयहरूबाट विद्यार्थीहरूले कुनै एउटा आफूले जानेको, आफूले अनुभव गरेको अथवा आफूले लेख्न सक्ने अध्ययन गरेको विषयमा लेख्न पाउनेछन्। त्यसको निम्ति 20 अङ्क दिएको हुन्छ। त्यसपछि बोध अथवा कम्प्रिहेन्सन भन्छौँ हामी। बोधबाट कुनै एउटा अनसिन प्यासेज अथवा अवतरण दिएको हुन्छ, त्यसबाट प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ। जम्मा 5वटा प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ र 5वटा प्रश्नको निम्ति 4-4 अङ्क गरेर जम्मा 5वटा प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ र त्यसको 20 अङ्क हुन्छ र 20 अङ्कमा विद्यार्थीहरूलाई त्यहाँबाट त्यो अवतरणबाटै प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ। तर अवतरण पढिसकेपछि विद्यार्थीहरूले आफ्ना शब्दहरूमा त्यो अवतरण राम्रोसँग पढेर उत्तर लेख्नुपर्ने हुन्छ र त्यो एकदमै विद्यार्थीहरूले यो अवतरणबाट जुन बोधबाट प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ त्यो साँच्चै नै विद्यार्थीहरूले ध्यान लगाएर लेखेको खण्डमा 20मा 20 पनि पाउन सक्ने हुन्छ। धेरै हामी आइएससी को पेपर करेक्सन गर्दा हामीले धेरै अनुभव गरिरहेका छौँ। प्राय विद्यार्थीहरूले 20मा 20 पाएको, 20मा 19 पाएको, 18 पाएको अथवा 15 भन्दा माथि प्राय सबै विद्यार्थीहरूले पाएको हामी देख्छौँ। किनभने त्यो एकदमै सहज हुन्छ, सजिलो हुन्छ, सजिलो प्रकारले प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ अनि त्यसको उत्तर माथि नै हुन्छ। त्यसलाई एउटा बनाएर विद्यार्थीहरूले लेख्नुपर्ने मात्र हुन्छ र अवतरणबाट जम्मा 5वटा प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ र 4 मार्क्स गरेर विद्यार्थीहरूले पाउँछन्। त्यसको जम्मा अङ्क टोटल अङ्क हुन्छ 20 अङ्क। त्यसपछि 3 नम्बरमा विद्यार्थीहरूलाई विशेष व्याकरणबाट जस्तो वाक्य निर्माण गर्नको निम्ति दिइन्छ। वाक्य निर्माण गर्नको निम्ति वाग्धारा दिएर वाक्य निर्माण गर्न लगाइन्छ अथवा कुनै शब्द दिएर वाक्य निर्माण गर्न लगाइन्छ। वाक्य निर्माण आउँछ, लिङ्ग परिवर्तन आउँछ, वाग्धारा आउँछ, विपरीत शब्द, सार शब्द, वचन परिवर्तन, काल परिवर्तन इत्यादि यस्तो ग्रामरबाट विद्यार्थीहरूले अध्ययन गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। यहाँबाट विद्यार्थीहरूलाई जम्मा 10 अङ्कको प्रश्न दिएको हुन्छ र जम्मा गरेर यो 3 नम्बर प्रश्नको 10 अङ्क, 2 नम्बर प्रश्नको 20 अङ्क, 1 नम्बर प्रश्नको 20 अङ्क गरेर यो सेक्सन ए अथवा व्याकरण खण्डबाट, भाषा खण्डबाट जम्मा 50 अङ्कको प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ र विद्यार्थीहरूले सोही अनुरूप उत्तर लेख्नुपर्ने हुन्छ र यसबाट सर्वाधिक अङ्क विद्यार्थीहरूले प्राप्त गर्ने अवसर रहन्छ र प्राय विद्यार्थीहरूले हामी यसबाट धेरैभन्दा धेरै अङ्क पाएको हामी देख्छौँ र विद्यार्थीहरूले खुबै राम्रो प्रकारले उत्तर गर्न यो सक्नेछन्। त्यसपछि साहित्य खण्ड सेक्सन बी अथवा साहित्य खण्डको निम्ति 50 अङ्क छुट्याइएको हुन्छ र 50 अङ्कबाट प्रश्न कहाँबाट सोधिन्छ भन्दाखेरि जस्तो हाम्रोमा हामीले पढ्दै गरेको आइएससी कविता कुञ्ज विद्यार्थीहरूको हातमा यो किताब छ, आइएससी गद्य कुञ्ज यो कथाको किताब विद्यार्थीहरूको हातमा छ, जुनेली रेखा उपन्यास छ हामीले पढ्दै गरेको उपन्यास, अनि देउराली रुन्छ नाटक, यो जम्मा 4वटा पुस्तकबाट विद्यार्थीहरूलाई प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ र 4वटा किताबबाट प्रत्येक किताबबाट विद्यार्थीहरूलाई तीनवटा गरेर प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ। तीनवटा गरेर प्रश्न सोधिन्छ, जम्मा 12वटा प्रश्नपत्रमा दिएको हुन्छ, तर विद्यार्थीहरूले यहाँबाट गर्नुपर्ने प्रश्नको उत्तर भने 4टा मात्रै हो तर चारवटै किताबबाट गर्नु पर्दैन। विद्यार्थीहरूले गर्दाखेरि 3वटा पुस्तकबाट मात्र गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ र प्राय हामी कालिम्पोङमा अथवा प्राय स्कुलहरूमा हामी कविता कुञ्ज, गद्य कुञ्ज र जुनेली रेखा पढाउँछौँ, तथापि कतिपय दार्जिलिङ लगायत कतिवटा स्कुलहरूमा अनि देउराली रुन्छ नाटक पनि पढाइन्छ र जहाँबाट भए पनि विद्यार्थीहरूले कुनै 3वटा पुस्तकबाट जम्मा 4वटा प्रश्नको उत्तर लेख्नुपर्ने हुन्छ र यसको निम्ति 12.5 गरेर जम्मा 50 अङ्कको प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ। र त्यसमा प्रश्नहरू कस्तो किसिमको आउँछ भन्दाखेरि कविताको कुनै एउटा पंक्ति दिएको हुन्छ, कुनै एउटा अवतरण दिएको हुन्छ र अवतरणबाट प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ। कविताको कुनै एउटा अवतरण निकालिएको हुन्छ, त्यो अवतरणबाट प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ, अथवा कथाको कुनै एउटा अवतरण निकालिन्छ त्यहाँबाट प्रश्न सोधिन्छ, अथवा उपन्यासको एउटा कुनै अवतरण निकालिन्छ त्यहाँबाट प्रश्न सोधिन्छ, अथवा नाटकको कुनै अवतरण निकालिन्छ अनि त्यहाँबाट प्रश्न सोधिन्छ। कुनै पाठ्यक्रमभित्रबाट कुनै पनि कथा, कविता, नाटक, उपन्यासको कुनै पनि बीचको भागबाट अवतरण निकालिन्छ अनि त्यो अवतरणबाट प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ। यस प्रकारको प्रश्नको उत्तर विद्यार्थीहरूले गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। यसरी नै व्याख्या, सप्रसङ्ग व्याख्या अथवा व्याख्या गर्नुहोस् भनेर दिएको हुन्छ। कुनै एउटा अवतरण दिएको हुन्छ र यसको व्याख्या गर्नुहोस् अथवा यसको सविस्तार चर्चा गर्नुहोस् अथवा वर्णन गर्नुहोस् भनेर प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ। प्रश्न आउँदाखेरि अवतरणबाट प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ, व्याख्या गर्ने प्रश्न आएको हुन्छ, अथवा कविताको सारांश लेख्ने कुनै एउटा आइएससी कविता कुञ्जबाट कुनै 2टा कविताको नाम दिएको हुन्छ, त्यो 2टा कविता मध्येबाट कुनै एउटा कविताको सारांश लेख्नुहोस् भनेर दिएको हुन्छ। अनि कुनै एउटा 2टा कथा दिएको हुन्छ, त्यो कथा मध्येबाट छोटकरीमा कथालाई लेख्ने दिएको हुन्छ र यस्तो प्रकारले प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ। यसरी नै उपन्यासबाट पनि सोधिएको हुन्छ, कथाबाट पनि सोधिएको हुन्छ, नाटकबाट पनि सोधिएको हुन्छ अनि कविताबाट पनि सोधिएको हुन्छ। विद्यार्थीहरूले कुनै 3वटा पुस्तकबाट मात्र जम्मा 4वटा प्रश्नको उत्तर आइएससी नेपालीमा लेख्नुपर्ने हुन्छ र 12.5 अङ्क गरेर प्रत्येक पुस्तकबाट विद्यार्थीहरूले प्रश्न दिएको हुन्छ 3वटा गरेर, तर कुनै 3वटा पुस्तकबाट 4टा प्रश्नको उत्तर मात्र विद्यार्थीहरूले लेख्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। 12.5 गरेर जम्मा 4वटा प्रश्नको 50 अङ्क दिएको हुन्छ। हामीले पढ्नुपर्ने पुस्तकमा आइएससी कविता कुञ्ज हामी पढ्छौँ, यो कविताको पुस्तक हो। त्यसपछि यो आइएससी गद्य कुञ्ज हामी यो पढ्छौँ किताब, यो कथाको पुस्तक हो। अनि यो जुनेली रेखा उपन्यास हामीले पढ्दै गरेको उपन्यास हो, जुनेली रेखा उपन्यास। अनि देउराली रुन्छ नाटक पनि पढाइन्छ, तर प्राय स्कुलहरूमा अहिले जुनेली रेखा कथा, कविता पढाइन्छ, कतिपय स्कुलमा नाटक पढाउने चलन पनि छ। त आज हामी यो जम्मै विवरण विद्यार्थीहरूलाई दिइसकेपछि 100 अङ्कबाट 50 अङ्क साहित्य खण्डबाट, 50 अङ्क 50 अङ्क ग्रामरबाट अथवा व्याकरणबाट प्रश्न आउँछ भनेर जम्मै जानकारी कहाँबाट कति कति प्रश्नको उत्तर लेख्नुपर्ने अनि कति कति अङ्क दिएको हुन्छ यो जम्मै जानकारी गराइसकेपछि अब हामी नचिनिने भएछौँ पार्ट 6 मा नचिनिने भएछौँ अगमसिंह गिरीको कविता पढ्न लागिरहेका छौँ। जम्मा 10 वटा कविता हामीले पढ्नुपर्ने हुन्छ र कवितामा विशेष गरेर क्लास 11 मा अथवा 11औं श्रेणीमा हामीले 5 वटा कविताहरू प्राय पढिसकेका छौँ र 12 मा आएपछि 12औं श्रेणीमा आएपछि हामीले पढ्नुपर्ने 5 वटा कविता रहेको छ, कथा 5 वटा रहेको छ, जुनेली रेखना उपन्यास पढ्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। सायद 1-2 भाग पढेको अघिल्लो वर्षहरूमा अथवा क्लास 11 मा हामीले पढिसकेका छौँ। नाटक पनि सायद यसरी नै नाटक पढ्ने विद्यार्थीहरूले भर्खर सुरु गरेका छन् होला। त आज हामीले पढाउनु पर्ने अथवा पढ्नुपर्ने विषयमध्ये एउटा विषय हो कविता नचिनिने भएछौ। यसका कवि हुन् अगमसिंह गिरी र नचिनिने भएछौ शीर्षक कविता पढ्नुभन्दा पहिला हामीले जान्नुपर्ने कुरा के छ भने कवि गिरीमाथि कवि अगमसिंह गिरी को हुन्, उनले कस्ता कृतिहरू लेखेका छन्, उनी कस्ता कवि हुन्, यसमाथि हामीले जान्न जरुरी छ। कवि अगमसिंह गिरी उहाँको यो तस्बिर, उहाँलाई हामी जातीय कविको रूपमा चिन्छौँ, जातीय चिन्तक भनेर पनि चिन्छौँ, जातीय कवि भनेर पनि चिन्छौँ। जहिले पनि हाम्रो समाज सुसुप्त अवस्थामा रहेको समाजलाई जगाउने, उठाउने र हाम्रो जातिलाई अगाडि बढ्नको निम्ति प्रेरणा र प्रोत्साहन दिने, सधैँ अघि उठ्नुपर्छ, जाग्नुपर्छ, सचेत हुनुपर्छ। हाम्रो कुन अवस्थामा हामी बाँचिरहेका छौँ, अब हामीले हाम्रो निम्ति आफै चिन्ता गर्नुपर्छ भनेर आत्मा पीडा, हाम्रो मनभित्र रहेको पीडालाई, आत्माको पीडालाई, दुःखलाई, वेदनालाई सधैँ देखाउने कवि हुन् अगमसिंह गिरी र अगमसिंह गिरीका कविताहरूमा जहिले पनि जातीय चेतनाको भावना हामी पाउने गर्छौँ। जातिलाई अगाडि बढाउने अथवा जातिलाई चेतना प्रदान गर्ने, विशेष गरेर भारतभरि छरिएर बसेका नेपालीहरू, दार्जिलिङका नेपालीहरूको अवस्था र व्यवस्थालाई, यहाँका नेपालीहरूले भोग्नु परेको दुःख, पीर, मर्का, समस्यालाई उनले देखाउने चेष्टा आफ्ना कृतिहरूमा गरेका छन्। अगमसिंह गिरी जातीय कवि, अगमसिंह गिरीको कविता नचिनिने भएछौ हामी पढ्न लागिरहेका छौँ। अगमसिंह गिरी जन्म 27 डिसेम्बर 1927 मा उनको जन्म भएको हो। 27 डिसेम्बर 1927 हाम्रो पाठ्यपुस्तकमा सायद त्यो भुलवश अलिकति डेट गल्ती लेखिएको छ। यो उनको सही जन्म 27 डिसेम्बर 1927 मा हो अनि मृत्यु पनि त्यहाँ पुस्तकमा अलिकति प्रिन्टिङ मिस्टेक भएको मैले देखिरहेको छु। उनको मृत्यु हो 31 जनवरी 1971। 31 जनवरी 1971 मा उनको मृत्यु भयो अनि जन्म भयो 27 डिसेम्बर 1927 मा। सानै उमेरदेखि कविता लेख्ने अगमसिंह गिरी नेपाली साहित्यका एक महान कवि हुन् अनि उनी जातीय चिन्ता गर्ने जातीय कवि पनि हुन्। कवि गिरीका कविताहरू त्यस समयको हस्तलिखित पत्रिकाहरूमा प्रकाशित भएको हामी पाउँछौँ। हस्तलिखित पत्रिका भनेको त्यति बेला सायद छाप्ने सुविधा थिएन, प्रिन्टिङ गर्ने व्यवस्था थिएन, थियो भने पनि सायद 2-4 वटा प्रेसहरू मात्रै थियो होला अनि त्यसमा छपाई गर्न महँगो पर्थ्यो। त्यही कारण त्यस बेला हातले लेखेका पत्रिकाहरू प्रकाशित हुने गर्थ्यो। हातैले लेखेर तयार पारिन्थ्यो पत्रिका अनि बजारमा निकालिन्थ्यो अथवा त्यस्ता स्रष्टाहरू, त्यस्ता लेखकहरू, त्यस्ता नवोदित कलमहरू अथवा पाठकहरूकोमा हातमा पुर्याउने व्यवस्था गरिन्थ्यो र हस्तलिखित पत्रिकाहरूमा अगमसिंह गिरीको रचनाहरू प्रकाशित भएको हामी देख्छौँ। पछि गएर साथी, गोर्खा, उदय, प्रभात नामक पत्र पत्रिकामा उनका रचनाहरू प्रकाशित भएको हामी पाउँछौँ। उनलाई एकजना सफल गीतकारको रूपमा पनि मानिन्छ। अगमसिंह गिरीले खुबै राम्रा गीतहरू पनि लेखेका छन् र अगमसिंह गिरी नेपाली साहित्यमा सधैँ एकजना चर्चामा रहने नाम हुन् अगमसिंह गिरी। उनी भानुभक्त प्राथमिक पाठशाला दार्जिलिङका प्रधान अध्यापक पनि थिए। एकजना असल शिक्षकको रूपमा, एकजना असल प्रधान अध्यापकको रूपमा पनि अगमसिंह गिरीलाई हामी चिन्छौँ। अगमसिंह गिरीका कविताहरू जातीय भावनाले परिपूर्ण छन्। उनका कविताहरूमा दुःख तथा वेदनाको भाव तीव्र पाइए पनि उनी आशावादी कवि हुन्। आफ्नो जातिको निम्ति मरिमेट्ने अगमसिंह गिरीलाई जातीय कविको रूपमा राख्न सकिन्छ। उनले मर्नोपरान्त भानु पुरस्कार प्राप्त गरेका हुन्। उनका प्रकाशित कृतिहरूमा हामी याद खण्डकाव्य, आँसु खण्डकाव्य, आत्मव्यथा कविता सङ्ग्रह, जीवन गीत कविता सङ्ग्रह, जलेको प्रतिबिम्ब रोएको प्रतिध्वनि कविता सङ्ग्रह, युद्ध र योद्धा खण्डकाव्य पाउँछौँ। यस्ता धेरै कृतिहरू लेखेर नेपाली साहित्यको श्रीवृद्धिमा, नेपाली साहित्यको विकासमा योगदान पुर्याउने काम अगमसिंह गिरीले गरे र आफ्नो जीवनभरि नै जातिको चिन्ता गरेर उनले आफ्नो जीवन व्यतीत गरे। नेपाली जातिलाई माथि उठाउनको निम्ति, नेपाली जातिलाई आफ्नो आत्म अधिकारको निम्ति सचेत गराउनको निम्ति, आफ्नो जातीय अस्तित्व र अस्मिताको निम्ति अग्रसर गराउनको निम्ति सधैँ कलम चलाइरहेको हामीले अगमसिंह गिरीलाई पाउँछौँ। यही कारण हाम्रो समाजमा अगमसिंह गिरी सधैँ पूजनीय छन्, सधैँ प्रातः स्मरणीय छन्। हामीले कवि अगमसिंह गिरीको परिचय, कवि अगमसिंह गिरीको जीवनीलाई हेऱ्यौँ। कवि अगमसिंह गिरी जातीय चिन्ता गर्ने कवि, जातीय चिन्तक को रूपमा हामी अगमसिंह गिरीलाई चिन्छौँ। उनको याद खण्डकाव्य, आँसु खण्डकाव्य, आत्मव्यथा कविता सङ्ग्रह, जीवन गीत, जलेको प्रतिबिम्ब रोएको प्रतिध्वनि अनि युद्ध र योद्धा खण्डकाव्य अगमसिंह गिरीद्वारा लिखित खुबै चर्चित तथा लोकप्रिय कृतिहरू हुन्। अब हामी सुरु गर्छौँ अगमसिंह गिरीको कविता नचिनिने भएछौ शीर्षक कविता हामी आज विद्यार्थीहरूलाई बुझाउनेछौँ। नचिनिने भएछौ अगमसिंह गिरी, तिमी त यहाँ नचिनिने भएछौ। गालाका रगतहरू सुकिसकेछन्, आँखाका ज्योति सब हराइसकेछन्। तिमी त रुँदा रुँदै निदाएको बालक जस्तो, कठोर कारागारको यातना भोगी विरक्त बन्दी जस्तो, गाँस खोसिएको, बास लुटिएको, विवल हतभागी जस्तो कस्तो कस्तो भएछौ। तिमी त यहाँ नचिनिने भएछौ। कवि अगमसिंह गिरीले हामीलाई, तपाईँ र मलाई, हामीलाई नचिनिने भएछौ भनेर हाम्रो नेपालीहरूको अवस्थालाई दर्शाउने चेष्टा कवितामा गरेका छन्। हामी नेपालीहरू आज कुन अवस्थामा छौँ, पहिलाको नेपालीहरूको स्थिति र आजका नेपालीहरूको अवस्था, दार्जिलिङे नेपालीहरूको अवस्था, भारतभरि छरिएर बसेका नेपालीहरूको अवस्थालाई कवि गिरीले दर्शाउने चेष्टा गरेका छन्। नचिनिने भएछौ शीर्षक कवितामा हामीलाई कवि गिरीले हाम्रो परिवर्तनलाई, हाम्रो विचारलाई, हाम्रो अनुहारलाई नचिनिने अवस्थामा पुगेको देखाएका छन् अथवा वर्णन गरेका छन् यो कविताको माध्यमबाट। तिमी त यहाँ नचिनिने भएछौ। पहिलाको वीर योद्धाका सन्तान, वीर जातिका सन्तान हामी, तर अहिले आएर हामी कमजोर भएको अनुभव गरेपछि कवि गिरीले तिमी त यहाँ नचिनिने भएछौ। तिम्रो त्यो गालाका रगतहरू पनि सुकिसकेका छन्। तिम्रो गालामा जुन त्यो रातोपन थियो, जुन एउटा ऊर्जा थियो, जुन शक्ति थियो, त्यो जम्मै शक्ति चाहिँ हराएछ। आँखामा जुन ज्योति थियो, जुन चमक थियो, त्यो चमक पनि हराएर गएछ भनेर भनेका छन्। अनि जसरी एउटा बालक रुँदा 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 गरेपछि ऊ निधाएपछि पनि ऊ त्यो निन्द्रामा पनि, सुतिरहेको अवस्थामा पनि त्यो उसले वेदना व्यक्त गरिरहेको हुन्छ अथवा ऊ निराश भएर सुतिरहेको हुन्छ। एउटा त्यो दुःखको भावना, दुःखको स्वरूप उसको अनुहारमा देखिन्छ। त्यस्तै त्यो कठोर यातना अथवा जेलमा लामो समयसम्म कारावासमा बसेको एउटा बन्दी व्यक्ति विरक्त भएर जब बाहिर निस्किन्छ, उसको त्यो अवस्थामा परिवर्तन आउँदैन। उसलाई दुखी देखिन्छ अनुहारमा। उसको त्यो मनभित्रको आत्मपीडा, मनभित्रको दुःख, त्यो मनभित्रको वेदना उसको अनुहारमा झल्किन्छ, अनुहारमा देखिन्छ। यहाँनिर कविले हाम्रो अवस्था पनि त्यस्तै भएको छ। एउटा कठोर यातना सहेर आएको, कारावासमा बसेर आएको बन्दी जस्तो, रुँदा रुँदा सुतेको बालक जस्तो आज हाम्रो अवस्था, त्यो आँखाको ज्योति हराइसकेको, हाम्रो गालाको रगत सुकिसकेको हाम्रो अवस्था, आजको अवस्था चाहिँ त्यस्तो छ भनेर कविले भनेका छन्। गाँस खोसिएको, बास लुटिएको, घाँस खोसिएको, खान नपाएको, अनि हाम्रो बास पनि, हामी बस्दै गरेको हाम्रो भूभाग, हाम्रो भूमि पनि लुटिएको आजको अवस्था छ। यस्तो अवस्थामा हामी बसिरहेका छौँ। कस्तो दुःख र वेदना लिएर, मनभित्र पीडा लिएर, आत्मा पीडाको भावना बोकेर पनि त्यसलाई व्यक्त गर्न नसकेर, त्यसलाई उजागर गर्न नसकेर हामी बाँचिरहेका छौँ। हाम्रो अवस्था त्यस्तो छ। त्यो अवस्थामा तिमी पुगेका छौ, तिमी नचिनिने भएको छौ। अहिले तिम्रोमा त्यो उज्यालोपन, तिम्रोमा त्यो जुन एउटा उज्यालो प्रकाश थियो, जुन एउटा उज्यालो चमक थियो, केही गर्न सक्ने जुन तागत र शक्ति थियो, त्यो शक्ति तिम्रो अनुहारबाट, तिम्रो रूपबाट सबै हराएर गइसकेको छ भनेर कविले खुबै मर्मस्पर्शी ढङ्गमा यहाँनिर हाम्रो अवस्थालाई दर्शाउने चेष्टा गरेका छन्। तिमी नचिनिने भएछौ भनेर वर्णन गरेका छन्। अतीत गौरवले धपक्क बलेको अघिको चहकिलो अनुहारमा ग्लानीका विषाक्त रेखाहरू कोरिएछन्। पहाडका बैशाखी वनमा तिमी जङ्गली फूल झैँ हँसिलो देखिन्थ्यौ, तर अब त चेहरामा तिम्रा विषादका काला धर्साहरू कोरिएछन्। पहिला हाम्रो अवस्था, अतीत भनेको विगत, पुरानो दिन। पहिला हामी उज्यालो थियौँ, हाम्रो गौरव गाथा चारैतिर चलेको थियो, उज्यालो अनुहार थियो। हामी वीर बलभद्रको सन्तान भनेर हामीले आफूलाई भन्छौँ, वीर अमरसिंहको सन्तान भनेर हामी आफूलाई भन्छौँ। ती वीर व्यक्तिहरूको सन्तान भनेर हामी आफूलाई गर्व गर्छौँ। हाम्रो अतीत, हाम्रो बितेको दिन उज्यालो थियो। त्यति बेला हामी गर्व गर्थ्यौँ। हाम्रा वीर सन्तानहरूलाई देखाएर हामी वीर जाति भनेर भन्ने गर्थ्यौँ। अघिको अनुहार, तिम्रो अघिको अनुहार चहकिलो थियो, उज्यालो थियो। तर आज तिम्रो त्यो अनुहारमा त्यो उज्यालोपना छैन। आज तिम्रो अनुहारमा त्यो दुःखको भावनाहरू देखा पर्न थालिसकेको छ। त्यो विषाक्त रेखाहरू कोरिसकेको छ। तिम्रो अनुहारमा केही गर्न नसक्ने त्यो विषाक्त भावना, विषाक्त रेखाहरू तिम्रो अनुहारमा देखा पर्दैछ, अहिले देखा पर्न थालेको छ भनेर कविले भनेका छन्। जसरी त्यो वनमा फुलेको फुललाई न त पानी हाल्नुपर्छ, न त स्याहार गर्नुपर्छ, त्यो आफै जङ्गलमा कुना कन्दरामा आफै फुल्छ। त्यस्ता जाति थियौँ हामी। हामीलाई कसैले सहयोग नगरे पनि, कसैले माया नगरे पनि हामी त्यो बैशाखी वनमा फुलेको फुल जस्तो उज्यालो भएर हामी हिँड्ने गर्थ्यौँ। हाम्रोमा त्यो चमक थियो, त्यो शक्ति थियो, त्यो उज्यालोपन थियो। तर आज त्यो सबै हराएर गइसकेको छ। आज त्यो जङ्गली फुल जस्तो उज्यालोपना हाम्रो अनुहारमा छैन। हाम्रो चेहरामा, अनुहारमा त्यो रूप सबै हराएर गइसकेको छ। तिम्रो अनुहारमा त आज विषादका काला धर्साहरू, कालो कालो त्यो धर्काहरू पो कोरिएछ भनेर कविले हामीलाई हाम्रो अवस्थालाई देखाउने चेष्टा गरेका छन् यो कवितामा। चोटमा भुक्नु होइन, बरु सहन सिकेछौ। तिमी त अर्कै जस्तो भएछौ, तिमी त यहाँ नचिनिने भएछौ। चोट पर्दाखेरि त्यसको प्रतिवाद गर्नु होइन, तर हामी चाहिँ सहने भएका छौँ। आज चोट पर्यो, आफूलाई दुःख पर्यो, तर मलाई किन यसरी दुःख पर्दैछ भनेर आवाज उठाउनु त होइन, त्यसको विरोध गर्नु अथवा प्रतिवाद गर्नु त होइन। आज हामी सहने भएका छौँ। हामीलाई चारतिरबाट अन्याय भइरहेको छ, चारतिरबाट शोषण भइरहेको छ, चारतिरबाट दमन भइरहेको छ। चारैतिरबाट अन्याय, अत्याचार, शोषण, दमन हुँदा पनि हामी बोल्न नसकेर सहने अवस्थामा आज पुगेका छौँ। हामी त्यसको विरुद्धमा आवाज उठाउनु होइन, तर हामी चुपचाप सहने भएका छौँ। हामी चुप लागेर सहने आज हाम्रो अवस्था छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि त्यो पहिलाको अतीत गौरवले बनेको तिम्रो अनुहार, विगत दिनमा तिमीले जुन एउटा नाम, जुन यश, सम्मान तिमीले फैलाएका थियौ, जुन चारैतिर तिम्रो इज्जत थियो, सम्मान थियो, नाम थियो, त्यो इज्जत, त्यो सम्मान, त्यो एउटा अनुहारमा आएको चमक आज हराएर गएको छ। आज चोट लाग्दा पनि त्यसको विरुद्धमा आवाज उठाउनु होइन, त्यसको प्रतिवाद गर्नु होइन, तर तिमी सहेर बसिरहेको छौ र तिमी चाहिँ अर्कै भएछौ। पहिलाको तिमी र आजको तिमीमा चाहिँ फरक देखिन थालेको छ भनेर कविले तिमी त यहाँ अर्कै भएछौ, तिमी त यहाँ नचिनिने भएछौ भनेर हामीलाई भनेका छन्। तिमी को हौ चिनाउन आएको होइन म, बितेको गौरव गाथा कहन आएको होइन म। अन्तमा गएर कवि अगमसिंह गिरीले भनेका छन्, तिमी को हौ, तिमी के थियौ, तिमी के थियो विगतमा र आज के छौ, यो भन्नको निम्ति पनि म आएको होइन। तिमी वीर बलभद्रको सन्तान थियो, अमरसिंहको सन्तान थियो, वीर जातिका सन्तान हौ, तिमी त शक्तिशाली जाति हो भनेर भन्नको निम्ति, जनाउनको निम्ति, जानकारी गराउनको निम्ति पनि म आएको होइन। अनि तिम्रो बितेको गौरव गाथा, तिमीले जुन नाम सम्मान यश फैलाएका थियौ, त्यो नाम सम्मान यशको बारेमा चर्चा गर्न पनि म आएको होइन। तिम्रा सन्तप्त छाती, पीर र व्यथाले भरिएको तिम्रो छातीका पीरहरू, जुन समस्याहरू छ, जुन नैराश्य छ, जुन पीर छ, जुन व्यथा छ, त्यो व्यथालाई उगेल्नको निम्ति, त्यो निकालिदिनको निम्ति पनि म आएको होइन। त्यो कथा भन्नको निम्ति पनि म आएको होइन। अनि सजिलैसित खोसिएको घाँस, हलुकै लुटिएको बास दिलाउन आएको होइन। म सजिलैसित तिम्रो निम्ति भनेर छुट्याइएको घाँस खोसियो, तिम्रो निम्ति भनेर बस्ने तिम्रो घर, त्यो बास तिम्रो लुटिएको छ, त्यो दिलाउनको निम्ति, तिम्रो लुटिएको बास र खोसिएको घाँस दिलाउनको निम्ति पनि म आएको होइन। अनि तिम्रो छातीभित्र जुन एउटा खोपिल्टा परेको छ, सन्तापको, पीरको जुन खोपिल्टा, गहिरो खोपिल्टा परेको छ, त्यो खोपिल्टालाई पूर्णको निम्ति पनि म आएको होइन। छातीको त्यो गहिरो खोपिल्टा पूर्ण आएको होइन। म निर्दा आँसुका धारा हेर्न आएको होइन। म निर्दो भएर सहिरहेको, आफूलाई अन्याय हुँदा, आफूलाई अत्याचार हुँदा, आफूलाई दमन हुँदाखेरि पनि चुप लागेर बसिरहेको अवस्थामा तिमीलाई त्यो पीर र व्यथाको बारेमा भनिदिएर तिम्रो त्यो निर्दा आँसुको धारा हेर्नको निम्ति पनि म आएको होइन। तिमी केही गर्न नसकेर रुँदै बसिरहेको अवस्थामा तिम्रो आँसु पुछिदिन अथवा तिम्रो पीर व्यथा निवारण गर्नको निम्ति पनि म आएको होइन। म चाहिँ किन आएको हो त? कविले यहाँ अन्तमा भनेका छन्, केवल तिमी नै हौ कि चिन्न आएको म, तिमी त यहाँ नचिनिने भएछौ। कविले भनेका छन्, तर म एउटै कुरा बुझ्नको निम्ति म आएको हो, केवल तिमी चाहिँ त्यही तिमी हौ, त्यही पहिलाकै तिमी हौ, तिमी त्यो पहिलाकै तिमी हौ कि आजको तिमी हौ? तिम्रो रूप, तिम्रो स्वरूप त त्यो विगतको छैन, तिम्रो कार्यशैली विगतको छैन, तिम्रो कार्य पद्धति पनि विगतको छैन। विगतमा तिमीले जुन एउटा इज्जत राखेको थियौ, यश र सम्मान फैलाएका थियौ, तिम्रो अनुहारमा जुन एउटा चमक थियो, उज्यालोपन थियो, तिम्रो अतीत चाहिँ गौरवले जुन धपक्क बलेको थियो, चारैतिर यश थियो, सम्मान थियो, नाम थियो, वीर जातिको सन्तान भनेर तिमीलाई चिनिन्थ्यो। तर आज त्यो तिमी, विगतको तिमी नै तिमी हौ, आजको तिमी हौ। म केवल त्यो जान्न, त्यो चिन्न मात्र आएको, तर तिमी त यहाँ नचिनिने भएछौ भनेर कवि अगमसिंह गिरीले नचिनिने भएछौ शीर्षक कविताको माध्यमबाट हामीलाई, हाम्रो अवस्थालाई देखाउने चेष्टा गरेका छन्। र कवि गिरीले आजभन्दा धेरै वर्ष अघि लेखेको कविता भए पनि आजसम्म पनि यो कविता त्यत्तिकै सान्दर्भिक छ। आज पनि हामी त्यही अवस्थामा बाँचिरहेका छौँ, जुन अवस्थामा कवि अगमसिंह गिरीले हाम्रो कविता, हाम्रो अवस्थालाई यो कविताको माध्यमबाट देखाउने चेष्टा गरेका थिए। आज पनि त्यही अवस्थामा हामी नेपालीहरू बाँचिरहेका छौँ। हाम्रो अवस्था त्यही अवस्थामा छ, त्यही स्थितिमा हामी बाँचिरहेका छौँ। अन्याय र अत्याचार सहेर, शोषण र दमन सहेर पनि हामी चोटमा भुक्नु होइन, तर सहेर बसिरहेका छौँ। आज पनि त्यही अवस्थामा हामी छौँ। र कवि अगमसिंह गिरीले हामीलाई मलमपट्टि लगाउनको निम्ति होइन, हाम्रो अवस्था देखाउन पनि होइन, तर विगतको तिमी र आजको तिमी त्यही तिमी नै हौ। विगतको तिमी र आजको तिमीमा जुन फरक देखिँदैछ त्यो हेर्नको निम्ति मात्र म आएको, तर तिमी नचिनिने भएछौ भनेर आजको हाम्रो अवस्थालाई, आजको हाम्रो आत्मपीडालाई, आजको हाम्रो दुःखलाई, आजको हाम्रो सहने जुन प्रवृत्ति छ, आज हाम्रो जुन चुपचाप बस्ने जुन प्रवृत्ति छ, अन्याय र अत्याचारको विरुद्धमा बोल्नै नसक्ने जुन एउटा अवस्था छ, यो अवस्थालाई कवि अगमसिंह गिरीले नचिनिने भएछौ शीर्षक कविताको माध्यमबाट खुबै राम्रो प्रकारले व्यक्त गर्ने चेष्टा गरेका छन्, खुबै राम्रो प्रकारले वर्णन गर्ने चेष्टा गरेका छन्। यो अगमसिंह गिरीले कसैलाई भनेको होइन, हामीलाई नै भनेको हाम्रो जातिको अवस्था देखेर नै उनले यो कविता लेखेका हुन् र यो कविताको माध्यमबाट पनि अगमसिंह गिरीको जातीय चिन्ता स्पष्ट रूपमा देखा पर्छ। जातीय चिन्ताको भावना यहाँबाट पनि हामी स्पष्ट रूपमा बुझ्न सक्छौँ। कवि अगमसिंह गिरी जातीय चिन्तक हुन्, जातीय चिन्ता गर्ने कवि हुन् र हाम्रो जाति माथि आइपरेको समस्या, हाम्रो जातिको अवस्थालाई कवि अगमसिंह गिरीले खुबै राम्रो प्रकारले व्याख्या गर्ने, वर्णन गर्ने चेष्टा यो कविता नचिनिने भएछौ शीर्षक कविताको माध्यमबाट गरेका छन्। र यहाँबाट पनि अघि मैले भनेको जस्तै गरेर कुनै कविताको पङ्क्ति दिइन्छ अनि कविताबाट प्रश्न सोधिन्छ। जस्तो कुनै अवतरण निकालिन्छ बीचबाट अनि त्यहाँबाट कवि अगमसिंह गिरीले हामीलाई जुन प्रश्न सोधेका छन् त्यहाँबाट पनि प्रश्नपत्रमा पनि विभिन्न प्रकारको प्रश्नहरू हामीलाई सोधिएको हुन्छ, प्रश्न दिएको हुन्छ। जस्तो उदाहरणको निम्ति अतीत गौरवले ढपक्क बलेको अघिको चहकिलो अनुहारमा ग्लानीका विषाक्त रेखाहरू कोरिएछन्। पहाडको बैशाखी वनमा तिमी जङ्गली फुल झैँ हँसिलो देखिन्थ्यौ, तर अब त चेहरामा तिम्रा विषादका काला धर्साहरू कोरिएछन्। यसरी एउटा कुनै पङ्क्ति प्रश्नमा निकालिएको हुन्छ, प्रश्नपत्रमा निकालिएको हुन्छ। त्यसपछि यस पङ्क्ति कुन कविताबाट निकालिएको हो, यसका कवि को हुन्, यहाँ अतीत गौरव भन्नाले के बुझिन्छ, यहाँ कसको अतीत गौरवको कुरा गरिएको छ, उल्लेख गरिएको छ। ग्लानीका विषाक्त रेखाहरू भन्नाले के बुझिन्छ, कसको अनुहारमा ग्लानीका विषाक्त रेखाहरू देखिँदैछ, यस्ता प्रश्नहरू सोधिएको हुन्छ। जङ्गली फुलसित यहाँ कसको तुलना गरिएको छ अनि जङ्गली फुल झैँ हँसिलो देखिन्थ्यो भनेर कविले कसलाई र किन भनेका हुन्। अब त तिम्रा चेहरामा विषादका काला धर्साहरू कोरिएछन्, किन हाम्रो अनुहारमा विषादका काला धर्साहरू कोरिएछन् भनेर कवि गिरीले भनेका छन्। यस्तो प्रकारको प्रश्नहरू सोधिएको हुन्छ अनि कहिलेकाहीँ नचिनिने भएछौ कविताको सारांश पनि लेख्न आउँछ र विद्यार्थीहरूले कविताको पङ्क्ति, कविताको प्रत्येक लाइनलाई, प्रत्येक लहरलाई राम्रोसँग अध्ययन गरेर पढेर प्रश्नपत्र, विभिन्न प्रकारको प्रश्नपत्रहरू प्रश्नपत्रमा दिएको हुन्छ, अवतरण दिएको हुन्छ, त्यहाँबाट प्रश्न सोधिएको हुन्छ, त्यसको तयारी गर्ने अनि कविताको सारांश पनि तयार गर्ने म विद्यार्थीहरूलाई आग्रह गर्दछु। र यसपछि हामी अर्को कविता अर्को सेसनमा अथवा अर्को क्लासमा हामी पढ्नेछौँ। अगमसिंह गिरीको कविता पढिसकेपछि हामी हरिभक्त कटुवालको आकाशको के तारा कविता हामी अर्को क्लासमा पढ्नेछौँ। हरिभक्त कटुवालको जीवनीलाई हामी हेर्नेछौँ। त्यसपछि उनको कविता आकाशको तारा के तारा शीर्षक कविता हामी अर्को क्लासमा पढ्नेछौँ र विद्यार्थीहरूलाई घरमै बसेर यो केटिभीको माध्यमबाट जुन अनलाइन क्लास प्रसारण भइरहेको छ यसको फाइदा लिएर विद्यार्थीहरूले राम्रो प्रकारले अध्ययन मनन गरेर लकडाउनको समयमा पनि घरमै बसेर पढ्ने अनि घरमा रहने, सुरक्षित रहने र आफ्नो पढाइलाई चाहिँ जारी राख्ने म आग्रह गर्दै विद्यार्थीहरूलाई यो नेपाली विषयको पाठ्यक्रम जुन दिएको छ 100 अङ्कको जुन पाठ्यक्रम दिएको छ यो पाठ्यक्रम अन्तर्गत विद्यार्थीहरूलाई म आग्रह गर्दछु विभिन्न पुस्तकहरूबाट जुन बोध कम्प्रिहेन्सन दिएको हुन्छ त्यहाँबाट पनि विद्यार्थीहरूले उत्तर लेख्ने कोसिस घरमै बसेर खातामा उत्तर लेख्ने कोसिस आफैले गर्दै गर्ने अनि विशेष गरेर 400 शब्दभित्रमा निबन्ध लेख्नुपर्ने भएको कारणले गर्दा निबन्ध लेख्ने अभ्यास पनि यो छुट्टीको समयमा घर बसेको समयमा विद्यार्थीहरूले विभिन्न विषयहरूमा निबन्ध लेख्ने अभ्यास पनि घर बसेर गरिरहने निरन्तर रूपमा यो अभ्यास गरिरहने आग्रह गर्दै आजको क्लासबाट म यही विश्राम लिन चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद।
Good morning, I'm Mrs. Nita Pradhan and I'm here today to teach geography for the IAC students of 2020-21. Okay, before I start with the chapters, now let me just explain you all about the question pattern, the format, the syllabus and the marking scheme of your IAC question paper. Okay, first to start with, there are altogether 20 chapters in your syllabus, okay, 20 chapters, and you have to go through all the 20 chapters that has been there. The reason behind is because short answer type question that you have that you get in your IAC question papers is from the entire 20 chapters, okay. So now this 20 chapters, then you have to come to the question format, okay. The entire paper is for 100 marks, but the theory is 70 and practical is 30. Now this theory is again divided into two, okay, compulsory and choice. Now compulsory outer is for 30 marks and choice is for 40 marks. Now this 30 marks paper, outer questions on 30 marks, again is further divided into two, okay, question number A and question number B, okay. Now A is for 20 marks and you have short answer type questions, and in that short answer type questions it includes the entire questions from the entire chapter, all 20 chapter, which is compulsory, has to be attempted by everyone, okay. And each questions out here carries 2 marks. Altogether there are 10 questions and each question carries 2 marks, and then you have 10 marks for your map work, okay. So that 30 marks is compulsory. Now you come to the second part 2 of your question paper, and that is the choice. You have 7 sets of questions here, and from that 7 set you have to choose any 4 set of questions. Now when you are choosing this 4 set of questions, now please be careful, okay. Now the chapters that you have, the 20 chapters that you have, is been divided into 5 units, okay. The first unit consists of 6 chapters. The second unit consists of 5 chapters. The third unit also consists of 5 chapters. The fourth unit consists of 3 chapters, and the fifth unit consists of 1 chapter. So altogether there are 20 chapters out here. So if you are choosing, unit 1, that means you have to study all the 6 chapters to answer 1 set of question. If you are choosing unit 2, then you have to study all the 5 chapters to answer 1 set of question. Same goes with 3, 4 and 5. So from this 5 units, altogether 7 sets of questions are being given, and from that 7 set of questions you have to choose any 4. Now this is the choice. Then you come to the practicals. Now practical is for 30 marks, okay. 10 marks is for your project, 10 marks is for your practicals, and 10 marks is for your viva. Okay, so this is the format. This is how the questions are been, the theory part and the practicals, and how the questions are being given. So you have to be very careful while choosing your questions, okay. Now another important thing that you have to remember is that the marks that has been given, allotted, okay. Minimum marks is 1 and maximum is 3 marks. Most of the question, whether it is part 1, compulsory part, or whether it is a choice, the answers that has to be written is short. You don't have to write a very long answer. Answers has to be written short but to the point. So because of this, IAC, you have to be very thorough with your IAC syllabus. It's not like class 10 where you just pick up 4 or 5 chapters and then you study. You have to go through the entire chapter, the entire concept. The entire thing has to be understood in your IAC question pattern. Okay, now let me start with the first chapter now. The first chapter is the locational setting of India in comparison with China and Australia. Okay, now when you are doing this chapter, now the most important thing that you have to remember is the latitudinal longitudinal extent of India, okay, and that latitudinal longitudinal extent of India has to be compared with China and Australia. Okay, now let me start with it. Okay, now first thing that you have to know is that you're looking at the map, okay, you know that India is a part of Asia. Now this is not a very important IAC question, but it's important for me to tell you that India is a part of Asia, and Asia is the largest continent in the world. Now not only the largest continent in the world, but it is also referred to as a continent which is unique, a continent with a difference, a continent with a contrast. Okay, so there are certain factors to prove that India, why Asia stands as a unique continent in the world, a continent with a contrast, a continent with a difference. Okay, there are so many reasons behind, but let me just explain you a few factors that is that is proving that Asia is, the continent with a difference. Number one. Now you'll find the world's highest peak in Asia, okay, that is Mount Everest. The lowest part of the earth is also in Asia, that's the Dead Sea. The second one you can say is the heaviest rainfall area, okay, like Cherrapunji and Mausiram is also a part of Asia. And the driest part of the earth, the desert areas that you have in Asia is also being there. Then you can also say that all the religion that started in the world mostly originated in Asia. Not only this, you will find the world's two mostly populated region, okay, that is India and China, which is also a part of Asia. So with this, these are the points that is proving us that Asia is the largest continent in the world, or a continent with a contrast. Okay. Now, starting with the first ISC question, one of the most important ISC question that has been repeated several times is that India has always been referred to as an Indian subcontinent, which means a part of a continent. Now, Asia, is the largest continent in the world, and India is a part of Asia, and it's also been referred to as the subcontinent. Okay. Now, why it is known as an Indian subcontinent or a part of a continent is because of these two factors. One is a well-defined boundary, and the other one is that it possesses the same characteristic feature what a continent should have. Okay. Now, well-defined boundary. When you're talking about the well-defined boundary, now look at the map of India. Okay. Towards the northern regions of our country, you have the chain of mountains here. Okay, whether it is the northwestern regions, whether it is the Trans-Himalayan or the northern region or the eastern part or the northeastern regions of our country, it's all been covered with mountain ranges. Like for example, out here, you have the Karakoram range. Then you have Himadri, Himachal and the Shivalik, that is the three parallel ranges of the Himalayas. And then towards the northeastern states of our country, you have small hills like Naga Hill, Mizo Hills, Khasi Hills and all, which is also a part of the mountain chain. Okay, and towards the northwest, you have the Hindu Kush here, you have the Sulaiman, you have the Kirthar range and Makran range, and so on it goes. So the entire range in the northern part, the entire portion in the northern part of our country is being covered with chain of mountain which separate it from other parts of Asia. And down below, if you look at the southern part of India, it is a peninsula. A peninsula means an area which has been covered with water on three sides. You have the waters of the Arabian Sea, you have the waters of the Bay of Bengal, and then you have the waters of the Indian Ocean. Okay, so down below is the peninsula region separated from other parts of the world, and on the top you have the mountain chain which is separating it from other parts of Asia. That is why it has a well-defined boundary. And second, it possesses the same characteristic feature of a continent. For a common people like us, when we talk about continent means landmass. Okay, so there are certain things that makes up the land masses, like you have the mountains, you have the plains out here, okay, the Indo-Gangetic plains present out here, you have the deserts out here, okay, you have the coastal regions here, and this yellow portion that has been shaded out here is peninsular India. Second one is the Indo-Gangetic plain, and this fourth portion that you have out here is the peninsular India. So these are the relief features that a continent should be having, and India also possesses the same thing. You have the northern mountains here, then you have the northern plains here, you have the Thar desert here, you have the peninsular region out here, the coastal stretch of the coastal plains here, and the two group of islands. So it's because of this, India, along with its neighboring country, is known as the Indian subcontinent. So please be careful with these 2 points, why India has always been referred to as an Indian subcontinent. Understood? Okay, now we go to the next one. The locational setting of India. Now, this figure that has been mentioned out here, the latitude, longitude and all, it's very, very important. Now, without knowing this, without memorizing this figure, you'll not be able to compare it with other countries in the world. So, it is very important to know these figures. Okay. Now, if you look at first thing that you remember is that lines of latitudes and lines of longitude. Now, latitudes means all these lines that has been running from east to west or from west to east is known as latitudes. And all these lines which is running from north to south is known as the longitudes. Okay. So, latitudes and longitude plays a very, very important part. For latitude, it helps in the location, and longitude helps in determining the time of a particular place or a particular region. So looking at the latitudinal and longitudinal extent, now you will find that India's latitudinal extent is from 8 degrees 4 minutes, that is Kanyakumari. So actually the mainland India extends from 8 degrees 4 minutes to 37 degrees 6 minutes north. Okay, why north? Because we are in the northern hemisphere. So 8 degrees 4 minutes north to 37 degrees 6 minutes north is the latitudinal extent of mainland India. Okay, but India does not extend from, actually in the mainland only extends from 8 degrees 4 minutes, that is Kanyakumari, but the southernmost tip of India is Indira Point, which is 6 degrees 45 minutes. So this is southernmost tip of India. Southernmost tip of India's mainland, this is southernmost tip of India, that is Indira Point. Southernmost tip of India is Kanyakumari, and the northernmost portion is the Indira Call, 37 degrees 6 minutes. That is the latitudinal extent of India. Okay, now you come to the longitudinal extent. Now longitudinal extent start from the Kutch region. Okay, that's Gujarat Kutch region, 68 degrees 7 minutes to Arunachal, that is 97 degrees 25 minutes east. Okay, so that is the longitudinal extent of India. Okay, now north-south distance from Jammu and Kashmir to Kanyakumari, the total length of the country is 3,214 kilometers, and from east to west is 2,933 kilometers. That is called north-south and east-west distance of a country. So when you are comparing the locational setting of a country, you have to know the latitudinal extent, longitudinal extent, north-south extension and east-west extension. Okay, that is very, very important. Now beside this, the total area that has been covered by India is 32.87 lakh square kilometers. Okay, that's the total area. So now latitude, the northernmost tip, the southernmost tip of India, longitude, north-south extension and east-west extension of India along with the total area. Very, very important. You have to by heart it. Okay. Now come to the vastness. Now you know India is a 7th largest country in the world. Okay. Now look at the vastness. There's a wide stretch of, the area has been extended from 68 degrees 7 minutes to 97 degrees 25 minutes. That's a great differences out here. Okay, so because of its vastness, if you look at this east-west extension, you will find 30 different lines of longitude that has been passing through. Okay, 30 different lines of longitude that has been passing through. Now from north, just see out here, from east to west, you have 30 different lines of longitude that has been passing through India. Okay, so each line of longitude, one line of longitude is equal to 4 minutes. That means if there is 30 different lines of longitude that has been passing through, it's 4. That means 120 minutes, which means 2 hours. Difference of 2 hours. So if you look at this extension out here, and there are different lines of longitude that has been crossing through. I told you there are 30 different lines of longitude that crosses from year till year. And each line of longitude there is a difference of 4 minutes. So 30 into 4 is 120. 120 minutes means 2 hours. So what I'm trying to say is that actually looking at the vastness of our country, you will find that there is a time difference of 2 hours from east to west. Okay, but one thing again you have to remember is that we do not follow the different time zone. We just follow one time zone, and that is from 82.5 degree east longitude. Now, one example I'll tell you. Like supposing the sun, this is the eastern part of our country and this is the western part of our country. Okay, if the sun rises at 6 o'clock in Arunachal Pradesh, okay, the first rays of the sun will be seen in Gujarat only at 8 o'clock in the morning, which means 6 o'clock the sun rises here, but the rays of the sun can be seen only at 8 o'clock here. The reason behind is because of the difference of 2 hours from east to west. But in order to avoid the confusion, Okay, we follow one timing, and that is 82.5 degree east meridian, which is also called the Indian Standard Time or the prime meridian. Okay, now like take for example, you see Nepal out here. Okay, Nepal is 15 minutes ahead of India. Now, if you look at this latitudinal and longitudinal extent out here just below Nepal, okay, you will find that this portion should actually be 15 minutes ahead, but we do not follow that time. Okay, so that is in order to avoid the confusion. Okay, now next is the Tropic of Cancer. Now you have this Tropic of Cancer that has been crossing through India, dividing India into two halves, the northern half and the southern half. Okay, now it divides into north and it divides into south, and this Tropic of Cancer is 23.5 degree north latitude. Okay. Okay, now next, now you know the southern part of India. Now the southern part of India is a peninsula that I have already mentioned it to you. Okay. Take for example the southernmost region of India. Okay. Now starting from the Kutch out here, going right down to Kanyakumari and tapering towards the mouth of the Ganges, the total length of the coastline is 6,100 kilometers. Okay, and when you add the coastline of Lakshadweep, Andaman and Nicobar Island, it comes to 7,517 kilometers. This is the stretches of the coastline that India has. Okay, so just remember the entire stretch of the coastline, that is mainland coastline, is 6,100 kilometers. When you add the coastline of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, you have 7,517 kilometers. That is the coastline of India, including the two group of islands. Now, beside this, India also shares the longest border with Bangladesh. You have to remember the figure, 4096 kilometers, and the shortest border of India is with Afghanistan, that is 80 kilometers. And you know that India is the 7th largest country in the world. Okay, and there are countries like Russia, which is 5.5 times bigger than India, and there are countries like Canada and China, which is 3 times bigger than that of India. Whereas India is also bigger than some of the countries, like 4 times bigger than Pakistan, 6 times larger than France, 9 times larger than Germany, 23 times larger than that of Bangladesh. Therefore, India is neither a pygmy nor a giant. That means India is also not very big, India is also not very small. So if a question, why do you think so India is referred to as a pygmy nor a giant, then you have to give an example that there are some countries like Russia and all, which is 5.5 times bigger than India, Canada and China 3 times bigger, and India is 4 times bigger than Pakistan, 6 times bigger than that of France, 23 times bigger than that of Bangladesh. Therefore, it is neither a pygmy nor a giant. Okay. Okay, now next we come to India's location. So if you look at the world map, you will find the equator here, 0 degree. Okay. Now above the equator is the northern hemisphere, below the equator is the southern hemisphere, and India lies in the northern hemisphere. Okay. Now this is the location of our country. Now India lies in the northern hemisphere, but not exactly on the north, but it is in the eastern side. So India lies in the northern hemisphere towards the eastern hemisphere. Okay, and what tells us that it lies towards the eastern hemisphere is, as I have mentioned in the earlier slide, 82.5 degree east longitude that passes through India tells us that we are in the eastern hemisphere. Okay, now another important thing. Now just below, now you have the map of India here. Below you have the Indian Ocean. Okay, now if you look at the location of a country, the strategic location of our country, we will find that India is at the head of the Indian Ocean. Now sometimes in your IAC question paper, they might ask you, is India centrally located in the Indian Ocean, or India has been located at the head of the Indian Ocean? Now India is not centrally located in the Indian Ocean. If India had been centrally located in the Indian Ocean, India would have been an example of a island surrounded by water from all the sides. But if you look at the map, you will find that India is at the head of the Indian Ocean. Okay, or at the paramount of the Indian Ocean. Okay. Okay, so India is located at the head of the Indian Ocean, center of the Eastern Hemisphere, commanding trade in all different directions. So if you look at this map, okay, now you will know that Indian Ocean, India is located at the head of the Indian Ocean, and in the earlier times, okay, before the opening of the Suez Canal and all that, India had a trade relationship with the eastern part of the world and the western part of the world through the waters of the Indian Ocean. So it is because of the prominence that was being enjoyed by the Indian Ocean in the earlier times, because of the trade links that they had in the east and towards the west. Indian Ocean is the only ocean in the world which has been named after a country. Now please be careful with this explanation of why Indian Ocean is the only ocean in the world which has been named after a country. And the reason behind is because Indian Ocean has played a very important role in trade of the eastern part of the world and the western part of the world in the earlier times. And Indian Ocean never acted as a barrier between the country, but it always served as a link between the countries lying in the coastal areas. So that's the reason behind why Indian Ocean is truly an Indian Ocean. Now we come to the next one. Now, mistress of the eastern seas. Another term that is being given in your textbook, where you have to explain why India has also been referred to as a mistress of the eastern seas. Now, India has always been referred to as a mistress of the eastern seas. The reason behind is because for the last 2 millennia, India's contact with the outside world has been with water, okay, or has been with sea. Therefore, it has earned the title of mistress of the eastern seas. Now you know it, if you go back to the history, you know it, that India was a wealthy country, okay, a country which had a lot of richness and all that. You had a lot of resources and all that. So most of the Britishers, the Dutchers, the Portuguese and all, they came to India for trade purposes. India was known for that. Okay, trading of spices and all that took place. So all these people came to India not with an intention of invading India, but they came for trade relationship, okay, for carry on the trades, to carry on with the trades, okay. So most of this trade that was been taking place in that period of time was through the sea, okay, through the sea. So because of that, India earned the title mistress of the eastern seas. Okay, and the next one is the crown in the British Empire. India was also been referred to as a jewel in the crown of the British Empire. Now, why it was known as a jewel in the crown of the British Empire is because if you look at it, again going back to the map over here, if you see the location of our country, it has been located at the border of the Indian Ocean, and India has always acted as an entrepot. Now see out here, you have the Indian Ocean out here. India has easy accessibility to the water, okay. So India has always acted as an entrepot. Now the meaning of an entrepot means a port which collects goods from other ports and redistributes it from that port. So in the earlier time, India was an example of an entrepot, which was receiving goods from other parts of the world, and from there again it was been redistributing to other places, okay. Like for example, today you can say Singapore is an example of an entrepot, because the port of Singapore receives goods from different parts of the world, especially in Southeast Asia, from the Far Asia and all that, accepts goods from other parts of the world, and then from Singapore again it has been redistributed to different parts of the country, okay. So that is why India has earned the title of an entrepot. Okay, and beside this, okay, because of the trade relationship that it had with the countries in different parts of the world, it acted as a jewel in the crown of the British Empire, because with the trade relation that it had with other countries, it brought a lot of money. So the money that came out here has been referred to as the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. It acted as a jewel. It made the British Empire very, very prosperous. So it was like a jewel in the crown of the British empires. Okay, so these are the important things that you have to study out here, like why Indian Ocean is truly an Indian Ocean, why India has earned the title of mistress of the Eastern Seas, and why India has also been referred to as a jewel in the crown of the British Empire. So sometimes questions on this might be there where you have to explain it. Okay, now we come to the last portion of this topic, and that's a comparative study. Now, when you're doing the comparative study, you always have to make a table. Like, for example, they might ask you, compare the locational setting of India with that of China. So, whenever this type of question comes, you have to make a column like this. Now, India and China, you have latitude, longitude, area, north, south, east, west, extension. Now, another important thing that you have to remember is that sometimes they might just ask you to compare the latitudinal, longitudinal extent, and sometimes they may ask you to compare the locational setting. So when you're doing the locational setting, you have to mention about the latitude, the longitude, the area, north-south extension, and the east-west extension. But if they ask you only latitude and longitude, then you can just mention about the latitude and the longitude. Okay, now we come to the explanation part out here. Now first, again, latitude. I told you India's mainland extends from 8 degrees 4 minutes to 37 degrees 6 minutes. China, it extends from 18 degrees north to 54 degree north. That is the latitude between India and China. Now longitude outer, I told you it's the line running from north to south. So 68 starting from here, 68 degrees 7 minutes to 97 degrees 25 minutes east. Okay, and China is from 74 out here to 165 degrees east. Area occupied by India is 32.87 lakh square kilometers, and China is 99.79 lakh square kilometers, which is almost 3 times the area of India. So see, you can see the total area, the red color that you have outer, and you can see the blue color here. You can compare it, almost 3 times the double the area of India. Now north-south. Now from north, Jammu and Kashmir to Kanyakumari, the total length of our country was 3,214. Okay, and China from north to south is almost the same of India, which is 3,214 kilometers. Almost the same. Area wise, China is 3 times bigger. North-south extension of India and north-south extension of China is almost the same. Now east-west, from here, from Kutch to Arunachal Pradesh, the total length was 2,933 kilometers. China from year to year is almost the double that of India, which means 2,933 plus 2,933, almost the double that of India. Understood? Okay, so east-west, 2,933 kilometers. East-west of China is double that of India, which means 2,933 plus 2,933 kilometers. So this is how you do the comparative study with that of China. Okay, now you come to the next comparative study with Australia. Now India, you can see the map of India here and map of Australia here. Now latitude, again same way, same table has to be drawn. Okay, then you write India, and now you are comparing with Australia. So write latitude, again India extends from 8 degrees 4 minutes to 37 degrees 6 minutes north. Australia 10 degrees south to 44 degrees south. Now please remember one thing. Now if you look at the map out here, India lies in the northern hemisphere, Australia lies in the southern hemisphere. Okay, now they might ask you, write one difference and one similarity between India and Australia. One difference is that India lies in the northern hemisphere, Australia lies in the southern hemisphere. But one similarity is that the same line of latitude, that is 23.5 degrees north, Tropic of Cancer, divides the country into 2 halves, that is northern half and the southern half in India. And the same line of latitude, that is 23.5 degrees south, which is called the Tropic of Capricorn, divides Australia into northern half and the southern half. That's the similarity and that's the differences between India and Australia. Okay, now now you'll see the longitudinal extent. Now latitudinal extent, I told you it's from 8 degrees to 37 India, and from Australia is 10 to 44 degrees south. Now longitude is 68 degrees 7 minutes to 97 degrees 25. Here it is 114 degree east to 154 degree east. Now area is India 32.87 lakh square kilometers and Australia is 7686 lakh square kilometers, which means double that of India. Now remember, China was 3 times more than that of India. Australia is 2 times more than that of India. North-south of India is 3,214. Australia is 3,219. So by 5 kilometers, the north-south extension of Australia is more than that of India by 5 kilometers. Okay, and then east-west, 2,933 kilometers is from Kutch to Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, and Australia, you have 2,933 plus almost 1,000 kilometers more than that of India. Now please remember, China was double that of India. East-west extension of China was almost double of India, that is 2,933 plus 2,933 kilometers. Now Australia is just 1,000 kilometers more than that of India. Okay, so with this we finish with a comparative study with Australia. Okay, now after you've finished, I hope you have understood the explanation part. Now these are the important things that you have to study in this chapter. Again, I'll just recap the entire chapter. The first thing is you have to know why India has always been referred to as an Indian subcontinent. That is important. Okay. Now secondly, you have to know why India is neither a pygmy nor a giant. Okay, that India's longest border with its neighboring countries, shortest border with which neighboring country, that is important. India's strategic location, why it is, why India has been located at the, do you think India has been located central in the Indian Ocean or it has been located at the tip of the Indian Ocean? Explain that. That part is very important. Indian Ocean is truly an Indian Ocean. You have to explain that. Why India has also been referred to as the mistress of the Eastern Seas. Okay, and another important thing that you have to remember is that why it's always been referred to as a jewel in the crown of the British Empire. Okay, these are the important questions that they might ask you, and then you have to know the comparative study. When you're doing this comparative study, the table that I have made out here, you have to memorize it. Okay, so with this, the chapter is over. And please go through your IAC examination corner questions. Please go through it, and I hope you have understood the explanation that I have done. Okay, so in the end, I just want to tell you all, stay happy, stay healthy, okay, and please do study. Do a little bit of revision, and whatever has been taught in this online classes, please make sure that you go through it.